So this will be the well, I'm not going to say the final because we may add stuff over time, but to actually complete the blue belt course, we're going to be going into deep half guard. We're just going to talk a little bit about it. It's a sort of a simple position. You don't see it played a lot because there's not that many options from there. Like it's a very powerful position, and if you get really good at it, it can be very, very strong, but you don't see a lot of it played because there's not that many options you can do from there, and the countermeasures to pass it and to prevent it are pretty strong against it, so you don't really see a lot of people playing it as much. And most of the sweep options just involve coming up, like going from your back and just getting up and kind of pulling the guy down. I'm going to show you a sweep, a pass, and just like a little bit of how to control the position, whether you're playing it or passing against it, like how to not just get swept or passed right away. So we have to talk a little bit about how to enter into it, because deep half guard isn't something where you just get grips and you're playing the guard like most of the other guards. You actually have to adjust your full body into a new position underneath the guy, and a lot of times it involves pulling the guy on top of you. So go ahead and stand up for me. It's easiest to do against a standing opponent, but it can also be done against someone on their knees. I do it differently than a lot of people. I'm not the best deep half guard player. I'll be totally honest with you. I play it sometimes, and I'm comfortable in it, and I would say there's no brown belts in the world that can pass my deep half guard. Black belts can probably pass my deep half guard. I'm not super good at it, but I do know the positions and I'm comfortable in them, so I will be able to articulate that to you. One of my favorite ways to enter into the deep half guard is to make sure that I'm hiding from the countermeasures early, because underhooks are your worst enemy when you're playing deep half guard. Anytime someone gets an underhook on you, it's going to screw over your whole deep half guard game. So it's very important that you keep your elbows really tight to you and you play this like weird, like not T-Rex, because you're going to be underhanded. So it's going to be like this reverse mantis style of play, because if you go like this, you can't get the hooks you need. So you need to be like this with your palms up as you enter into the position, because if I do anything that's normal with elbows out, he's going to be looking for underhooks as I enter into my position. And anytime someone has an underhook on you and I don't have super strong control of him with my legs, an underhook is just going to absolutely annihilate me. So by keeping my elbow in as I enter into these positions, if he tries to underhook me, I have a little bit of defense to help me. So I like to enter into it almost kamikaze style. I'm going to dive both my arms underneath his leg. And I take like a combat stance, step this like that. Come here, yeah. So that's something a little more realistic. Scoot forward a little. So we need to watch this underhook as I want to enter into my deep half guard. So I'm going to shoot both my hands around his leg underneath. And you'll notice I put my shin in front of his shin. I like to do this because it helps me pull his knee to me like this, because I can then elevate his foot and help off balance him, so I can get underneath to the deep half guard easier. Bigger guys don't need to do that. If you have thick enough thighs and strong enough legs, you'll be totally fine just holding his ankle with your thighs as you enter into the deep half, and probably be able to pull him down just as easily. So most of the time, those are the guys that are going to be playing deep half guard anyways. If you're longer and leaner like me, deep half guard doesn't really work with your body mechanics as well. So I would suggest, if you're the type of person that gravitates towards deep half, just use your legs. Don't go shin to shin, because it takes a little bit of dexterity that usually the people who play deep half guard don't have. So you don't have to go double arms underneath. You can go here, but you really need to be wary of that underhook. He's going to be underhooking you every time. So when you go into the deep half, tuck your elbow super tight and roll all the way to face the opposite side. So look how my legs go from here to this side. This is what's going to give me the control over him. I'm isolating his leg completely, and I'm almost cloistered up, like I've turtled up a little bit, so there's not a lot for him to attack. He can't really attack this arm, he can't really attack my legs, and the only arm he can attack is this one. That's why it's so important you don't let him get an underhook, because this is the arm that everyone wants. If I stay in deep half and I leave this arm hanging out, he's just going to underhook it. He's going to start attacking Kimuras or sitting through to like quarter mount. So what I like to do to avoid that is just make sure I tuck it under his knee as quickly as possible. If I tuck my arm underneath his knee here, he can still try and dig for an underhook, but when he does that, because I have both my arms here, I can block it with this hand and start to defend against his underhook. So I always like to look for this grip, because I know they're going to be digging for the underhook. So I like to catch the sleeve to control. So I take double countermeasures to make sure that my one weakness isn't exposed. So I hide it, but I also look for sleeve control here. So this is going to be where you're playing from. So now, one thing you need to try and avoid is you don't want to let him step over your head while you're playing this. If he starts to step over my head like this, here, I'm going to have a bad time. But luckily, that sleeve grip I showed you earlier can also kind of help you in these positions if he does start to pass. So I'm looking for the sleeve grip. I want to isolate the sleeve grip right away. Now look, if he does step over my head and do something like this, it's going to be pretty hard for him to face me because I have this arm. So at least I may be able to get up to my elbow and keep attacking like the Lucas Ledge position, and then be able to sweep or do something from there. If you haven't seen the Lucas Ledge guard, go back a few videos and watch the Lucas Ledge guard, because that complements deep half as well. So I'm going to enter into it, hiding my elbow to the side, the side of my body that's attacking the same side of his leg. I hide that elbow. So I'm tucking in. Now if he stays completely standing, nothing's going to happen. Like he's not going to be able to attack me, and I'm not really going to be able to attack him. So what I do to make sure he falls is make sure I bend this knee. So I pull forward and bend that knee so I can get to deep half. Now, if he's not reaching for the underhook, if you go far enough on your side, it's pretty hard for him to reach for the underhook, so he may not reach it anyways. In which case, I want to grab something, whether it's the belt or a lapel. I want to open stuff up here when you're playing deep half. Opening stuff up and getting grips like this is going to secure you if and when he starts scrambling around. So anything I grab under here is automatically going to turn into an underhook in a lot of these sweep positions or scramble positions. So you want to start taking grips. Sometimes for me, I'll actually open this side and pass it to my bottom hand and then look for another grip around his hip here on the other side. Can we rotate a little like this? So you see here, I opened up both. So I really like playing deep half like this because it's like the ultimate lazy guard. I'm just holding onto his ankle and I have both lapels here. Okay? So in this situation, wherever I'm going to sweep, I'm going to end up in a double under pass like this. Okay? For longer guys like me, deep half is a super good entry point into waiter sweeps, like this. Waiter sweep is kind of like deep half, so I like to do a lot of waiter sweep attacks where I would now tilt him back and look for a sweep here. And come up into an over-under position. Another really common deep half guard sweep is to simply lift your legs like this, pull hard here, and turn and come up. The reason that works is because most of the time people who play deep half guard are big guys, so the momentum that they get of rolling over, their girth, and their strength can tilt someone over. So a lot of times it's just a simple turn and getting up that can result in your deep half guard sweep. So as I'm under, I'm going to be opening up lapels, grab whatever I can, belt, sleeve, whatever. Grabbing the sleeve is always nice because 90% of the sweeps he's going to want to base with that hand anyways as I start to turn. And if I can hold this, no matter where I scramble, even if I lose the position entirely and get up, his arm is going to be trapped under his leg and I can do something else. So the scramble will then favor me. So making sure that you get strong grips is really important. Same thing applies with the lapel, but obviously the sleeve is really nice to get here. Another option you have, if you pass the lapel to this side, like this, I can actually scoot completely underneath here, and then reach the other side and hold this lapel like this. So I'm here. You can actually do it with either. Actually, I guess it would be better to grip here like this. So if you have the double lapel grip, another option we can do to attack is I'm going to bring my legs forward and bring my head out the back of the deep half guard. I'll have this grip entirely here, and I'm going to be pinching my elbow down on his back. So what this does is it's not going to allow him to turn to face me. The more he tries to turn into me, the tighter this lapel gets on his back, and he's never going to be able to take my back. So we're in like a position where our body position is mirrored. Let's rotate a little so you can see. Like if I don't have this lapel, we're basically in a mirrored position. He could jump to my back and start to try and take my back, or I could do the same to him if I escape my hips and take his back. So the only thing that's holding me and giving me the advantage, lift your butt up, is this grip here. So as he starts to try and turn to take my back, I have this super strong grip, his butt lifts up, and I can just easily counter his counter and take his back. So those are a lot of the movements that you're going to see as you play deep half guard. It's a very tricky position, very strategic, and it takes a lot of time to master. But one of the benefits of it is very few people know how to defend it or play against it because there's not very many counters to it. There's two main ones, which is attacking a Kimura, but that's only under the condition that you get the underhook. If you can't get the underhook, you're going to have a very hard time attacking the position. So the other option is to step over the head, which is a lot more reliable, which we're going to go into now. So Sunshine is going to be doing the deep half to me. Just going to fix my belt here real fast. So he's going to go into deep half, like this. So if he leaves his arm out, I always want to make sure that I'm underhooking it. Underhooking this here is going to prevent him from being able to come up in a lot of his sweep attempts. And even if he does come up in a sweep attempt, having this underhook, keep coming up, it gives me a lot of control to sweep back. If he comes up on his knees, I'm here, I can control the shoulder and force his posture down, possibly sweep him back. Or as he comes up, I may be able to escape my hips. I still have this control. I can drive him over in like a quarter Nelson position. If you're crazy, you can do a wild armbar attack. Just leaves you with a lot of options. But most of the time, when you get the underhook, he's not even going to be able to sweep you. Let me get this still. So he can't get it under my leg. I have such control here that he can't really come up. If I just put a little forward pressure, I'm going to be kind of stuck from being able to sweep me. So whenever someone goes to set this up, you want to try and dig your underhook. First line of defense. If he has any idea how to play deep half guard, he's going to hide that from you and keep it tight and try and put it under your leg. Here. In this situation, this is where deep half guard is tough for the guy on top, because I really do not have a lot of options. And anything I do is going to off balance me for him to do his deep half guard sweep. So this is a position I learned from Andre Galvao. It's very strong and I've been using it forever. It's like probably the best deep half guard escape there is. And it's to make sure you put this knee to the mat. So I'm going to drive this knee to the mat, and at the same time I'm going to lift this knee up. Here. This small movement will shut down 90%, I would say, of deep half guard players. So my leg is extended. He has the underhook. I'm just going to drive it to the mat. I can push his knee if I feel like I'm having trouble. I push his knee down, drive it to the mat, at the same time and lift this side up. Most of the time they're going to free their arm, because keeping the arm underneath this leg is really just hurting them at this point, because they can feel the position's changed. So the position's changed a little, so most of the time they're going to be freeing this leg. Sometimes they'll put it under this leg to hide it, but they mostly free that arm because the underhook isn't a threat for them anymore. Getting an underhook here doesn't help me in any way, so I don't need to get it. What I do need to do is get this leg over his head. So he's cupping my leg, he's hanging onto my ankle tight with his legs, so I can't just pull my leg out. So what I need to do is get the leg over his head. Luckily, there's not a lot stopping me from doing that. So there's not a lot stopping my leg from going over his head except this hand and a little bit of the top of his head. The easiest way to do that is just hit him with the old face mush. You're just going to take your hand, you're going to mush his face down. In IBJJF, it's illegal to touch anything from the eyes to the chin, but you can push on his head. Pushing his head down is going to be just enough to get your leg over the top. And that's what we're looking for. You can also try and peel his hands maybe, get some wrist control, and then lift over. But I'm all about efficiency and eliminating as many movements as I can in my position, so anytime I have to like use everything to pull it off, I'd rather just use the more efficient movement, which is just to push his head down. Because no one's neck is strong enough to resist my stiff arm as I use all my weight to push it down. If they resist, they're gonna hurt themselves probably. So push, bring the leg over. Once the leg is over, there's a slight danger of him getting an underhook on my back. So slight danger. As I come here, I'm going to start to slide through to pass. If I let him get this underhook, I may be able to go to like scarf hold. I think this is called Kesikatami position. I may be able to catch this, but even this position is not super strong in jiu-jitsu because a lot of people know they just bring their hips to your hips. And start doing something to escape. There's a lot of ways to escape Kesikatami. That's techniques for another day in another video. But what we want to do is make sure that they don't have any option to counterattack and counter our counter. So as I push his head and step over, I need to be aware of the underhook. You always have to be aware of the underhook. In a situation where getting an underhook can beat the position, you always have to be first, and that's the technique and skill and timing of jiu-jitsu that takes years to master. So as I'm stepping my leg over, right now he's not worried about the underhook because he's worried about my leg stepping over his head. So in the moment that I push his head, both our thoughts need to switch to, we need to fight for the underhook right now. Whoever gets the underhook is going to win. So one thing you could do potentially is use your other hand to push and make sure you preemptively set up your underhook the other side. Turn this way. I usually don't do that. I have a specific, unique way that I deal with it. But a lot of people will push here, hook the elbow. It's called like a baby underhook, is when you just underhook the elbow and like cup their elbow. This is still an underhook. It's just not one of the super deep ones where he has an overhook and I have an underhook. This is still an underhook. And getting this will stop most of his underhook attempts because the way my elbow is turned, my elbow is cupped to my ribs. So as he tries to re-swim his underhook, he just hits my elbows and ribs and it's hard for him to dig it through. If you keep it lazy and just go like this, it's not really gonna work. He's just gonna re-underhook you. So as you push his head with one hand, you can hook here, get your baby underhook, step the leg over, and then you're just gonna slide down. Slide your weight. He can hang onto your leg all he wants. You're just gonna keep sliding until your leg is free. If he still is hanging on, you just bring your foot to his knee. My bottom foot goes to his knee. That's gonna give me enough leverage to kick my leg free. I have my underhook. I'm probably gonna wanna go to another elbow control so he can't turn into me. If I don't get that control, he may turtle, and then I'm gonna create a scramble. So I usually preemptively grab this elbow to make sure he can't turn now. So now if he tries to turn, I have control to flatten back out. Okay? That's one super good way to deal with his underhook attack, or defense in this case, because I'm the one attacking. So again, we're just here. I'm just bringing my knee to the mat, lifting this knee up. So my knees just switched. One knee was down, my left knee was down earlier, and this one was up. I'm just switching so that my left knee is up and my right knee is down. Now, here's what I like to do. It's called a reverse underhook. I've never shown anyone this before. This is very unique, and I find it to be very effective. I will control the wrist, push the head with this hand. It doesn't really matter, really. I probably go like this. I control the wrist and I step. But instead of getting a baby hook, I'll actually use my opposite side hand to dig through to his armpit. So I reach through and karate chop him in the armpit. The deeper I get it, the better. But most of the time, while you're still sitting on him, you're not gonna be able to get it super deep. Now I start to slide and I let him try and underhook me with this hand. I let him get the underhook. But just the act of having my arm here, as I slide down, try and go out to my back, sunshine, it's hard. And I keep my weight on top of it. I still do the exact same thing. I'll pose with this hand just to maintain control. Try and slide my hips down. If he's hanging onto my leg, I do the same thing, push with my foot. Now, I just chop my hand into his waist, like waist and back area here, along the bottom, to create a wedge for me to rotate his body over. If I just leave it here and I try and push, he could escape his hips still. If I try to escape your hips, he can escape his hips and keep fighting. But if I create a wedge here, underneath his back, it allows me to drive his hips over my arm instead. Wedge concepts are from John Danaher. I always used wedges, but I never thought of the terminology to put it there. So that's a pretty cool thing. Using a wedge to change the leverage of your pressure. Using a wedge to now rotate his body and flatten his back, where if the wedge isn't there, I'm basically just driving him in a straight line. But putting the wedge allows me to rotate him flat to his back. So I keep this reverse underhook until I get him flat, and then I let go and go to the elbow control. In this case, it's important that I don't go over the top of the elbow, because if I go over the top of the elbow, I'm still in Kesugatami position. If I go under the elbow and drive up, now he cannot take my back because this arm is so high by his head, and I can control the position that way. So that's a lot of information. I usually film these in one go and then we split it into the videos. So if you're having trouble or you need to see the positions again, go back and watch the video again. I'm pretty sure I hit all the key points and details that I needed to hit. So yes, that's how to play the deep half guard, how to deal with some of the counters that you may face when the person's on top of you, and then the opposite, how to play against the deep half guard when you're the person on top. Most of the time, passing in jiu-jitsu is an advantageous position just because you have gravity on your side and all of the techniques are available to both people. So in a guard position, the person on bottom has grips, but you have gravity. And usually gravity can beat grips because you can break grips, but you can't break gravity. So having unstoppable gravity on your side usually helps the top player, which of course leads to the advantage going to the top player. So knowing those details of how to shut down their attacks and how to deal with the sweeps they're going to do is going to be super helpful for you. And most people focus on like teaching sweeps and teaching submissions from the bottom, and then from top they just teach like a basic pass, like you use this pass against them. But I like to show specific details and unique passes to deal with each individual position, because that's how my game is built. Like I see a position, I find myself in a position, and my instinct goes back to the details that I know specifically counter that movement, rather than being like, oh, I'm in deep half guard, I should try and escape to Toreando pass him, or I should try and get to a knee cut from here. So yeah, there's obviously a lot of ways to skin a cat. This is just everything I taught in the blue belt course is, in my opinion, the most effective way. The way I do it and the way that I've seen people use it most effectively. So of course there's a lot of ways to do it. If you find other ways, feel free to try them and use them and see what works. But most of what you'll need is already here. So yeah, that was the deep half guard. Thanks for watching.
See you next week.